Today I'd like to share with you a story from one of my tabletop role-playing games. This one is special to me because it can never be finished. Sadly, one of the players passed away a few years ago, and the rest of us couldn't bear to continue this campaign. Let me introduce you to our cast of characters. Sriracha is a forest gnome sorcerer and an entertainer. Sriracha is looking to make some money and help people. Sunshine Willow is a half-elf druid and a thief. Sunshine Willow grew up as an urchin in a medium-sized town that was largely controlled by a thieves' guild. The local sheriff is pretty incompetent, and when he does catch a thief, they are broken out of jail pretty quickly. Riswin Ungart or Rizzy to her friends, but she doesn't make friends easily. Riswin Ungart is a dwarf barbarian, eager for adventure and violence. Sriracha, Sunshine, and Riswin meet up at a crossroads outside the college city of Zetesk. They pause by one of the outer guard towers placed away from the city walls to protect the outer farmland, and decide to walk through the farms and meet the locals. They walk through the cornfields and wheat fields, and find a farmer picking weeds. The farmer explains that he has lost 3 goats in the last week to monster attacks, and that the guards refuse to patrol outside of the city walls, so the farmers are defenseless. He offers to supply the adventurers with food if they end the monster threat in the area. They continue toward the city, with that quest lingering in the back of their minds. At the gate, Sunshine announces to the guards that she is a thief, and they stare at her sternly and warn her to keep her hands to herself. Sriracha leads his companions to the tavern, and asks about opportunities to earn money by performing. The bartender offers 5 gold per night, 3 nights per week. Riswin is able to get the bartender to speak a bit more about the city, and he explains that shopkeepers have taken to closing shop early, or sleeping in their stores, to avoid walking the streets after dark. There have been people who went missing, and some witnesses report monsters coming out of the sewers and attacking people. The bartender also noted that the guards haven't acknowledged the threat yet, since none of their members have been attacked. Riswin asks if there is some way to convince the guards, and the bartender offers that the mayor might be able to order them to do something. He's generally more reasonable than the guards, but he isn't in the habit of spending money unless he thinks it is worthwhile. The bartender also speaks of the clergy of the area, referencing the temple church and their policy of taking in the homeless, protecting the innocent, and taking donations from those with wealth. Riswin comes up with the idea to go and kill some monsters, and bring back their corpses as proof to convince the guards. The group decide to camp outside of the city walls, to see if they can use themselves as bait for the monsters. On the north side of the city, they can see ships that have anchored away from shore, and they see the docks are empty. They try to speak to a guard at the Archer Tower, and they hear for themselves how the guards completely deny the existence of any danger within the city walls. Sunshine and her companions awaken early, to the sight of a brown bear scraping the ground and growling at them. The bear charges as they back up to the wall. Riswin runs forward and slashes the bear on the jaw, but it keeps coming. Sunshine casts Thorn Whip and pulls a leg out from underneath the running bear, making it fall and skid across the dirt. Sriracha brings out his crossbow and shoots, hitting the bear right between the eyes and killing it instantly. As they examine the bear, they find a cloth bag soaked in blood, containing a few silver coins. The group decides to let Riswin hold their shared loot, since it couldn't be divided equally. They head back to town, pass by the guards at the gate, and visit the temple. They find that the priests and monks within have a hatred of the mayor. He employs those abominations, zombies. Evil, and he does nothing to protect the citizens here. He thinks the age-old wall is enough, yet our citizens die in the streets at night. By noon, the trio is feeling hungry, and goes to buy some non-perishable ration packs at the food mart, before heading to the mayor's office. The receptionist sends them in. They walk past several cubicles staffed by zombies struggling to count to 5, and by the time they walk up the stairs, the mayor is waiting for them, reading a paper and declaring, "Monster slayers, huh? And what do you need from me?" After a brief exchange, the mayor grants them magical passes to get into the Wizards' College within the circular iron wall which seals it off from the rest of the city. When questioned about the zombies, the mayor becomes defensive and accuses them of being prejudiced. We bring them back to life and have them resume their old duties if they are able, or we put them in a shelter if they are unable to contribute to society. HR doesn't let us ask about their deaths, but we always have to treat them like mentally handicapped citizens once they become undead. On their way out of the building, the trio stop to talk to one of the zombies whose suit is ripped in a wide arc on the back. They ask him about his death, and he says, it was outside the food mart. My son wanted some candy. It was late, but the store was still open. On our way home, I saw something big and shadowy. It came up from a sewer grate. He pauses, on the brink of tears. It attacked with giant claws, but I pushed my son to the ground. I got on top of him and shielded him with my body. My son is alive. Even if my wife doesn't let me see him very often anymore, I know my death was not in vain. I saved him. With renewed determination to save the town, the group head to the Wizards' College and see the iron gates magically open and shut again once they are through. In the courtyard, they see one of the longhouses is on fire, and there is a group of mages. One of them on the ground, crying, the rest pointing and laughing. Ha ha ha. I was joking when I said you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Clearly you just did, laughs one of the wizards. No, please, you can't tell them it was me. I'll be expelled. They'll take away my wand. I didn't mean to do it, it wasn't my fault. Please, I'll do whatever you want, just please don't tell the headmaster, grovels the crying wizard. As the group of wizards see the trio of adventurers approach, they remark at the mage robes of Sriracha, and make some derogatory remarks against sorcerers. Those innate magic users walk around like they own the place, but what gives them the right? Scum of the earth, I say. They haven't worked for it or studied, they don't deserve to wield magic. I've half a mind to drain it right out of them. Sriracha nervously pretends to be a novice wizard, and when they seem suspicious, he changes the subject quickly and talks about how his true calling is as an entertainer. The group of students peer pressure him into performing a song on his violin, and as he plays, they seem to forget their reservations. Meanwhile, Sunshine sneaks away unnoticed, and heads into the main hall of the campus, narrowly avoiding detection several times before going inside, and finding a library and some empty classrooms. She makes her way upstairs, but underestimates how wide open the area is, and is spotted by a student that sees her tiptoeing up a 10-foot wide curved marble staircase onto a 40-foot wide balcony. The student, several rooms down the hallway, raises an eyebrow and stops walking. It is not every day when someone, dressed in leathers, tiptoes through a wizard's college. Sunshine gets nervous and walks down the other staircase, trying to act as if she had not been sneaking at all. On the ground floor, she finds a bathroom, a small storage closet, and one carpeted room with a metal hatch slightly ajar on the floor, being held up by a corner of the carpet. Without hesitation, she opens the hatch and climbs down the ladder into the sewers. She passes by several doors, looking in but not seeing anything of value, until she opens one door to be confronted by two shadows, as large as a human, with inhumanly large hands and blank faces staring directly at her. One takes a swipe at her, and she feels a large part of her life energy drain away. Sunshine runs as fast as she can, healing herself with magic on the way, but the shadow keeps pace with her, only a few feet behind, but out of melee range. As she passes through a doorway, she slams it shut and keeps running. Glancing over her shoulder, she sees black mist seep under the gap at the bottom of the door and reform into the full-sized shadow monster. She sprints to the ladder and climbs up as fast as she can, the creature just getting to the bottom as she leaps out, kicks the carpet away, and slams the metal hatch down. She backs away, ready to continue running if she sees more black mist, and the hatch is bumped up 3 times, then stays flat. Relieved but fearing for her life, she quickly walks back to the group as Sriracha's performance ends and the wizards all clap. Sunshine tells the other adventurers about the monsters, and the trio decide to exit the college and enter the sewer from one of the maintenance entrances they had seen at the major intersections in the city. They find this section of the sewer much damper, and they walk down one tunnel that appears to slope down, judging by the revolting sewage and water that goes up to the waists of the gnome before they decide to turn around. When they return to inch-deep water, Sunshine gets her chance to try picking a locked door, and proudly shoves it open after being successful. Her smile fades as she looks inside and sees 3 piles of pink sludge with mouths and eyes. Sriracha reacts quickly and uses flame hands to scorch all three of the monsters before her friends run in. Sunshine uses Thorn Whip to wrap around the semi-solid neck of one of the creatures, the thorns easily tearing through the thin surface of its skin and ripping its head clean off. Riswin runs forward and swings her axe, leaving another monster cleft in twain. The remaining monster tries to attack, but the damage is inconsequential. Sriracha finishes it off with a fire blast, turning it into a pile of ash. Riswin decides to take the disembodied head in her backpack as evidence for the guards. The group search the bodies and take what coins they find, before heading back into the sewer tunnels. They find another maintenance entrance that leads to the surface, but decide to keep exploring. Sunshine finds a locked door and unlocks it with ease, and the trio search the room, finding a pile of loose garbage and clothing, and a heavy closed door. As Riswin tries to open the door, they get attacked by a swarm of ravens that comes out of the rubbish heap. As the birds peck at the adventurers, Sunshine attempts to speak with them, but is met with, "You're here to steal our food. All the big things steal our food. We'll make you into food." Seeing the birds were not intelligent enough to be reasoned with, Sunshine uses Thorn Whip to attack, but they dodge out of the way. Riswin opens the heavy door and runs into the hallway, slashing at the birds with her axe, and felling several of them. Sriracha gets scared and follows Riswin into the hallway, stabbing the slower ravens with his dagger. Sunshine joins them and they close the door, run out of the sewer via the Wizard's College, and make their way back to the tavern. On the city streets at night, they notice how abandoned everything is. No streetlights, no guards, no pedestrians, only a few windows with firelight flickering inside. As they round the corner onto the street of the tavern, they hear an intensely loud shrieking and screaming, causing them to cover their ears and stumble. They find the source of the sound is a shrieking fungus plant near one of the sewer grates. Sunshine throws a javelin and impales the small plant, and the shrieking quiets until it ends with a squick. She retrieves her javelin as the others rip the plant up and Riswin stuffs it and some gold coins that were under its leaves into her pack. The trio then head swiftly to the tavern, greet the bartender from last night, and agree to pay for a single room for them to share. It's a rather large room, and the cost for the night covers a continental breakfast served down here in the morning. Hope you enjoy your stay. In the morning, the trio eat breakfast with a few other patrons, and show off the head of the monster they killed, before heading off to the mayor to collect a reward for it. At the mayor's office, they show off the monster head to the secretary, who is very impressed, and very disgusted by it. On their way up the stairs, they notice the zombie they talked to previously is missing from his cubicle, and decide to ask the mayor what happened to him. After a brief negotiation, the mayor pays them for their work so far, and informs them that many groups of adventurers have gone to kill monsters in and around the city, and only one group returned. That group had started with 6, and returned with only 2. After paying them, we hosted a funeral for their companions, and they left town shortly thereafter, says the mayor. He also explains that the guards have been put on patrols, but have not seen any monsters yet. The mayor is convinced by the physical evidence, and admits that he has gotten a lot of reports from civilians, but is unsure of where the monsters are coming from, or how to seal off the entrance. He flips through a book and gives them the names of the monsters they have killed. The pink slime things were lemurace, and the screaming fungus is simply called a shrieker. When Riswin asks about the zombie that was missing, the mayor became very defensive, and stated, "Things happen, and we deal with them, it is none of your business, and it is not a threat to the city." Upset by the questioning, the mayor says that they can take future evidence directly to the secretary for payment. She'll have a copy of this book, which includes all known monsters and descriptions from civilian sightings, and will pay you accordingly. The trio decide to pay the guard captain a visit, to make sure that the information being given to the mayor is accurate. On their way, they see some clerics performing a funeral ritual, burning food and letting the smoke rise up as a tribute to the gods, for fair treatment of the recently deceased. Sunshine, Sriracha, and Riswin take a detour to the magical item store, and browse the various goods inside. They buy a few protective potions, a few magical darts, a flaming sword, and some protective gear. Sriracha learns a harsh lesson in the art of bargaining, and the trio end up buying items before learning what they are, then get charged to identify some of the items. Before buying the sword, Riswin makes sure to ask what it does and how to use it, and the clerk offers the explanation free of charge. Once they get to the jailhouse, they walk past several guards, saying that they are going to see the guard captain. One asks what business they have here, and laughs when they say they want to discuss monsters. You mean the monsters he keeps sending us out to find and are always conveniently absent? Haha, go on in. Inside, they see several empty cells, a drunk, and a homeless man, as well as a tall man wearing a clean tailored suit. The man in the expensive suit is standing still with his hands behind his back. He is not touching the bed or any of the walls, just standing in the middle of the cell. The trio ask one of the guards at a desk what the story is behind the fancy man, and he says, "That bastard burned down a house and killed 10 people. We had to hunt him down with nothing more than plate armor and swords. I'm sorry, I'm just a bit emotional because I lost some good men arresting that mage. If it were up to me, I'd have executed him on the spot, but the mayor doesn't allow us to execute any magic users. At least we have these magic dampening cells here, so he can't do any more harm." Riswin remarks to the others, "Now we know the mayor is in cahoots with the wizard college." Finally, they arrive at the corner office and meet the guard captain. "You killed a monster? Where'd you find it? We haven't been able to track any down, and we're wondering if it was some kind of hoax." Riswin plops the lemure head onto the table and explains that they killed 3 of these, plus a shrieker, which Srirachi places on another corner of the desk. "That don't look like a monster, it looks like the pink slime we make hamburgers out of," says the captain, but when the trio insists that they burned one alive and this is another that they killed, he reaches out and examines the head. "I don't see any. Oh, there's the teeth. Yeah, ain't no hamburger mix got teeth in it, that's definitely a monster head. We found lots of monsters in the sewers. Do you ever send patrols down there?" asks Sunshine. "Ain't nothing in the sewer, 'cept sewage. Unless these things are taking refuge down there. If I need to send guards down there, I'll need to pay overtime, which means I'll need more funding from the mayor." The guard captain sighs. "I'll go see him this afternoon and get what I can, but he doesn't like spending money. We already showed him the monster head, so he knows the threat is real. That should help your negotiations," says Riswin. "So, can we work for you, to help clear out the sewers?" asks Sunshine. "Sure, you're hired. Oh, hold on a sec, let me just rifle through this. Ah, here we are, this magic scroll. It has lines on it where you put your name, and then you drip some blood from a monster beside there, and it will glow if the monster is powerful enough to be a threat. I don't know all the specifics of how it works, but it does work. You just roll it up again to make it stop glowing, and when you unfurl it, it glows again. You bring that back and I can pay you for what you've killed. I only got 100 gold budget for mercenaries this month, so don't go killing yourself trying to get everything done in one night. I call it a scroll of bounty collection, but I don't know if it has an official name. If you want to call it a monster scroll or kill list or something, that'd be fine too." With that, the trio of adventurers said goodbye and headed out of the office. I have more tabletop role-playing stories to tell, so like the video and subscribe to the channel.